So here's a look at how things are going. This is going to be the central flower. This is going to be slightly darker, as is that one. I may add a blue tint to one or the other of them. It's tedious because I'm doing it petal by petal, but that's all right. That's the look I'm going for this time. Who knows what'll happen next time. And I think this color is working out pretty well. This is Permanent Rose, and then I'm putting the quinacridone magenta as the accent color to give it some dark and some depth and some background. And I like it. It seems to be a nice contrast. It's a little warmer than the other colors I've been using. So I think it's coming out well, and I am just about done with the petals. Next we're going to do the, I said I was going to do the leaves next, but I'm not. I'm going to do the center of the flowers next. Whoops, I should get the pink off my brush before I go into the yellow. And I'm going to start with the driest parts. I'm going to use gamboge yellow, which is a nice permanent deep yellow. No water, just some dots. I might go to Indian yellow if this isn't dark enough. But this doesn't have to be dark. This is just, it'll be there. You'll see it. But it's not going to be a major player. So I'm going to put these in here, and then I am going to probably do a little bit of work on the lining, and then I'll just do some of the dark fill-in around the flower petals if I think it needs it, and then we'll hit the leaves. So I'll see you soon. So here we go. I have put in a lot of the background, and I need to sort of meld some of these lines, and so I'm taking just a damp brush and trying to join some of these lines and blend some of these white spaces out. Because really in the background behind those petals, it's going to be dark. I mean, they're all squinched in there. There's not a whole lot of light getting in, but the color is going to be reflective of the petals themselves, of the flower petals. So I'm just trying to blend some of these lines, maybe outline a petal here or there, get rid of some of the white space. And I put the yellow in. It's not terribly noticeable, but it's there. You can see it if you look for it. But it adds a little life to the whole thing, to the mixture. And I like that. Now as we start on the leaves, I'm going to start with a base coat of yellow, and then I'm going to add green on top of it. I've already done that. I think I'm going to start with a half of a leaf at first. And I'm going to start with adding it wet in wet. So here's my Hansa yellow. It's a nice bright lemony yellow. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, that's nice. So I'm dropping the green, a nice deep Prussian green, into the yellow. Hydrangea leaves are deeply veined and very regularly veined. I think for the most part I'm going to pull that back. They're also toothed. And on the ends of these teeth, there are very frequently some little reddish accents. I'm using QBO, nice warm orangey tone. While the paint's still damp, I want to run my brush through it where the veins will be. I'll probably have to do it again, but this will get a little bit of an indication of where the veins are going to be at the end. So I have a thirsty brush, they call it, and I'm putting it down and pulling up a little bit of pigment. Just a little bit at a time. We don't have to draw these exactly. We need to make it so our paintings indicate enough of the picture so our viewers' minds can create the rest. Then I move on to the second side, and I want to leave a little bit of an empty space. Well, no, I want to make it yellow in here. So I'm going to bring it right up to that line, to the center line, and pull it all around. Oops. And this time I am going to let it dry because I want to leave a center line down the middle for the central vein, and it has to be pretty dry for that to, for my green that's coming next to not overtake and blend into all the way into the middle. So now this side is dry, and I'm going to again take my Prussian green, work it in around the petals. And leave a little bit of leave my little central vein. If I find it's too light, I can always come back and darken it. It's all about keeping the edges wet. Now I'm going to take some of that ultramarine and drop it in at the base the way I've done before. Lots of dark in here. And now I'm going to go in with my teeny brush again and add the QBO. I want a lot of pigment, very little water, so with this size brush you really have to watch that there are no water droplets around the ferrule, the metal part above the bristles, because that's going to make it bleed too much. And if you go beyond where you had the green, that's okay too. That'll give you a nice hard edge. Not necessary, but it will help, I think, add to a little bit, add to the realism. And then you again go in and pull some lines out. But you know what? I think I'm going to pull a few more out on the other leaf for right now and wait till they get a little bit drier. I think it's not quite dry enough yet. Doesn't that look cool though? See how the water or the dry brush parts and takes away that paint? It's going to fill back in for the most part, but it makes a nice, very soft little line. It has to be a very dry brush. now it's ready to apply the yellow on the last side. While I'm waiting for my last half of my last leaf to dry, I'm going to go over onto this side and add a little bit of shadow under this leaf. This leaf is completely dry, and I don't want a lot, but I just do want to indicate that it is on top. So I'm just bringing it around that way. I'm going to darken this line on the outside, and I'll tell you why. It's because it extends over the pencil line I drew, and I want that pencil line to be obscured a little more, so it's a very, what's the word I want? Egotistical? It's a way of correcting my little faux pas there. There. Now this leaf is dry, or dry enough, and so I'm going to go in, put in my green. It's not very dry, is it? It's still bleeding out a little bit, but I will be very careful around where I want my vein to show. And part of what helps me with that is that this brush has more pigment on it than water, so it's going to be less likely to flow into the damp if there's still some damp yellow. Make sure all my edges blend. Don't want any hard edges within this leaf, except for the center stem, and that one I will probably blend out a little bit too. Okay. Now, before it's dry, I want to go in with some of my ultramarine blue, and I could have used something else for this. I could have used pyroline green. Might have been a better choice, but I didn't. I used the ultramarine blue, and I'm okay with it. There we are. Now I think as I look at this that my veins are a little too bright, so I'm just going to take a damp, thirsty brush, starting with the driest one. I'm going to tap in some water, and what that's going to do is pull the green over it just a little bit. I don't want to obscure it completely, and I don't want to disturb all of that paint. So I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out, but this is just a little too much. And the flower really is the centerpiece. We want people's eyes to go to the flower. Barely damp. Just a few finishing touches. Fixing my edge, blending some, darkening some. And my hydrangeas are done.